tonight. Drug-related deaths doubled last year. Still, one advocate and mother says there's not enough support.
We're in a drug crisis. The fact that it's killing our kids, there's still an issue there.
Today, an additional $100,000 to treat addictions. For the first time in more than a century, the province's unknown soldier is back on home soil. We take you on the journey from France to Newfoundland.
It didn't speak of, how this came to be and if these ribbon skirts were made in a proper, culturally appropriate way.
We head to the West Coast, where new rules about the RCMP uniform are drawing mixed reviews.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We'll get to those stories shortly, but first, new documents show Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services spent $91 million on travel nursing last year. Access to information documents show that travel nurse spending rose last year. $3.8 million was spent in January, up to $11 million in December. Nearly half of the spending was on nurses in the Central Zone, despite it making up less than 1/5 of the province's population. The president of the Provincial Nurses Union says that spending undermines efforts to recruit and retain nurses.
We are, since last August, fighting with NL Health Services for the implementation of the premiums that we negotiated. And early last week, we became aware that the last benefit that we were supposed to be getting implemented was nowhere to be seen until we got on the horn with government and NL Health Services. And even today, we're getting emails from our members, really, really upset. And to hear that $91 million was spent on travel agencies, private companies that don't even reside here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and yet we're nickel and diming our own members, that's not a retention strategy.
Coffey says the province needs to stop funding private agencies, and we'll have more of my conversation with Nurses Union President Yvette Coffey coming up in about half an hour on Here and Now. Where there were at least 73 drug-related deaths last year. That's according to records from the province's chief medical office. The mother of a young man who died after overdosing says more needs to be done to prevent those deaths. Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports.
We're in a drug crisis. And so this drug crisis really needs to be targeted and dealt with in the same way that we would any other life-threatening situation.
Today, the province announced an additional $100,000 to treat addictions. And recently, naloxone kits were put in many Newfoundland and Labrador schools. Tina Olivero's son, Ben, was 20 when he died of an overdose last July. Olivero says we clearly aren't doing enough to prevent drug deaths.
When someone has an allergy to peanuts, for example, everybody's notified, everybody gathers around and tries to help and tries to mitigate the risk for that child. Well, we're not doing that with drugs. We're not mitigating risk. We're exacerbating a drug culture with our tolerance.
An access to information request for records from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner shows that 73 people died of drug toxicity in 2023. That's up from 37 drug-related deaths in 2022. Olivero believes there are people with powerful addictions who are too sick to take care of themselves. Since her son's death, she's been advocating for involuntary treatment for some chronic substance abusers.
I took Ben many times to the Janeway, and we have laws that say people can choose for themselves whether or not they get help. The problem is we haven't proven whether or not that person actually has capacity to choose whether or not they get help.
Last summer at a rally led by Olivero, Justice Minister John Hogan told the crowd that the government is committed to finding solutions. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the trial for an alleged con man, Philip Chansey has been pushed to next spring. The Mount Pearl man was expected to stand trial next week, but that date has been delayed due to health problems with his lawyer. Chansey is accused of swindling 2 investors out of a combined $350,000. In both cases, the victims thought they were investing in electric vehicle dealerships, but no dealerships ever opened. And one of those investors was a terminally ill man who gave Chansey his family's life savings. Chansey has pleaded not guilty. The trial is now scheduled for April 2025. Newfoundland's unknown soldier is back on home soil. The remains are now in a secure location awaiting a full military funeral on July 1st. The unknown soldier was transferred back to the province over the weekend following a ceremony at Beaumont Hamel. Here Now's Heather Gillis was there as hundreds gathered to welcome him home.
Slowly, silently, French soldiers carried Newfoundland's unknown soldier through the battle-scarred, yet sacred land of Beaumont Hamel in northern France. He was laid, carefully, in front of a plaque inscribed with the names of hundreds of fellow regimental soldiers, men missing in the Great War, with no known grave. The unknown soldier could be any one of them, and yet he represents them all.
Eternal God.
The soldier was placed underneath the caribou, the emblem of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, crying out over this land where so much Newfoundland blood was spilled. Padre Jeff Payne prayed over the casket crafted from pieces of Newfoundland birch.
Well, today, where once you stood and where we now stand, we are about to bring you home. We humbly accompany you, our fallen comrade, who laid down your life for us. We bring you home with honor and thankfulness.
Draped in a Canadian flag, members of his regiment linked arm in arm to begin a procession that would bring him home. Here at the French airport, he was loaded into a Canadian government aircraft, the size of which a soldier of 100 years ago could likely not even fathom. Another honor, this time in the air. As the plane entered Canadian airspace, not one, but 2 CF-18 fighter jets escorted the unknown soldier. Right up until this moment, when he landed on Newfoundland soil for the first time in more than a century. Many came out to watch and wait as pallbearers carried the unknown soldier once more. His next of kin, the Premier, looking on.
I'm feeling surreal. It's a monumental moment. To say it's an honor is an understatement, and I'm so proud to carry one of our boys home.
Knowing that it's one of your own, knowing that it's a fellow Newfoundlander, knowing that he was young, he went away, he fought for our freedoms, and he fought for us to be here today. That was what moved me.
Newfoundland Regiment! Up!
The soldier's comrades, standing at attention, saluting as he passed by, the very ground he trained on, with the public lining the streets to also pay respects.
The soldier's remains are now in a secure location, and the headstone that once marked his grave is at the Rooms. People will have a chance to honor him and mourn once again once he lies in state at the Confederation Building, and then they can do so again during his full military funeral and interment here at the War Memorial on July 1st, Memorial Day. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
I'm quite moved by it. I think that finally the unknown soldier will become home to rest, and I think that we've just spent some time and money getting the memorial redone, and I'm excited by that, and I'm sure the whole process will be quite moving.
Well, I think it's important to be here to show honor and respect to so many Newfoundlanders who died in all wars, particularly the First World War, and personally to show respect to my great uncle who died on July 1st, 1916 at Beaumont Hamel.
It means so much. I have a great uncle who died during World War I, and he is buried in France. We have visited his grave as a family, but there's such a connection to that, and being able to repatriate a son that was missing, that no one knew, but it was lost, and we're able to bring him home. That is so meaningful.
It's certainly a very proud moment for the province. As the Premier has mentioned, Newfoundland and now Newfoundland and Labrador was not part of Canada at that time. So I certainly think that it's a solemn occasion for everyone in the province, but obviously a proud moment as well.
Knowing that he's back home and buried in a spot where even if he didn't have any direct descendants, but like relatives of his can actually now go and see where he is and just pay their respects.
Well, it certainly turned into a nice day on Saturday there. And, it's cooled right down, though, through the rest of the weekend. And certainly today, we are sitting under a ridge of high pressure at the moment. Actually, most of Newfoundland and Labrador is under clear skies. But we do have an area of low pressure to the west that is helping southerly flow into Labrador. In fact, and we've actually got some very mild temperatures this afternoon. Nain hit 20 degrees today. That's the first time you've hit the 20-degree mark, and you can see that there. All that mild air, anywhere from 19 to 22 degrees across most of Labrador, some across the maritime provinces as well, and most of the island sitting in the teens, just barely, only reaching about 7 degrees in St. John's today. So after today's heat, a little bit more of it tomorrow for the southeast across Labrador. Some parts of the island are actually going to see a warm up through the next couple of days, but that cold air will move back in. Northerly flow, southerly flow sticks around though for the island. In fact, we're going to see some more 20-degree days in the week ahead. I'll talk all about it coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, travelers in Western Newfoundland will have some more options for flights this summer. Budget airline Flair has started its new non-stop flight from Deer Lake to Toronto Pearson today. The company says it's looking to expand its routes throughout the country ahead of the summer. The airline is also resuming its flights to Kitchener-Waterloo. Both flights from Deer Lake will be available twice a week. The RCMP has announced a change to its uniform, which will allow Indigenous members to wear traditional ribbon skirts. But as Here and Now's Colleen Connors reports, that move has sparked questions from a chief in Corner Brook.
The RCMP posted this picture on May 22nd of a ceremonial ribbon skirt with an eagle feather and a Métis sash. The social media post said the skirt is a symbol of resilience, survival, identity, and hope. For Chief Jenny Brake of Halibut First Nation, the post left her with mixed emotions and a lot of questions.
I'm always happy to see any organization that supports cultural inclusion, but I also worried about all of the unknowns around this initiative, because they didn't speak of, how this came to be and if these ribbon skirts were made in a proper culturally appropriate way.
No one with the RCMP would do an interview, but in a statement days later, it explained the ribbon skirt was part of the ceremonial uniform. Indigenous regular members who self-identify as women, non-binary, and two-spirit can order a ribbon skirt kit that comes with alteration instructions to add the ribbons to the standard long blue uniform skirts.
I wear them for different occasions and different purposes, but my ceremonial skirts are always long and they always touch Mother Earth. The colors, the choices in ribbons all represent who I am as an individual. It's my expression of my indigeneity and my personality. So it's a very personal thing.
The RCMP says the idea came from the Women's Indigenous Network, a force-wide network representing hundreds of employees. The Commissioner approved of the uniform change in February after extensive consultation with various groups and committees. In a statement, it read the ribbon skirt, along with the eagle feather and Métis sash, will assist in increasing the representation of Indigenous employees and hopefully support recruiting efforts. It also demonstrates the values of reconciliation, equity, diversity, and inclusion.
We want to be positive and we want to be grateful for the efforts, but I guess past traumas make us a little cynical around efforts that are made, and we just really want to be sure that things are done in a good way.
Brake believes this move could help bridge the gap with the police force and Indigenous groups in this country. Brake says the bottom line here is that the ribbon skirts are a very personal thing, and she just hopes that the police are making these and wearing them in a very respectful way. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, the head of the province's largest public sector union is retiring. Greg Pretty spent more than 40 years with the Fish, Food and Allied Workers Union.
My last day will be November 19th of this year. There's an election in place, and despite all the brouhaha you've heard over the last couple of years, I've been there for 16 months. I think I've changed the tone. I've put more emphasis on this fishery than a lot of people. And there are some very progressive issues.
Greg Pretty presided over the union during two contentious tie-ups during back-to-back snow crab seasons. His presidency began when Keith Sullivan resigned in 2022, but has been with the FFAW since the early 1980s. The FFAW will hold its next election this summer. Two staff members, Dwan Street and Abe Solberg, have voiced their intentions to run for president. And staying with retirements, Provincial Health Minister Tom Osborne announced his retirement on Friday. Today, Premier Andrew Furey says Osborne is a wise politician and he's honored to have worked with someone with such a long legacy.
We should all be very grateful that Tom has given almost 30 years of his life to public service and to the stresses and strains that occur with political life. And I can tell you they're real for families. They're not benign. And for him to have given such a huge portion of his life is one that the people of the province really owe him a debt for. And I'm amongst them, not just as a colleague, but as a friend and a citizen.
Well, polls will close for the Bayvert-Green Bay by-election. Voters can cast their ballots until 8 o'clock Island time tonight. Owen Burt is running for the Liberals, despite identifying as a federal conservative. Lynn Paddock is the PC candidate. He came under fire for comments about recruiting doctors from India and Pakistan, but has since apologized for what he calls his poor choice of words. Riley Harnett is running for the NDP. That by-election was called after Liberal Brian War resigned in March. In other news, the province is planning to install speed cameras across Newfoundland and Labrador. Government says a pilot project in Mount Pearl and Paradise last summer was successful, and it will issue a request for proposals in the coming months. Legislative changes are underway to allow the winning bidder to manage, maintain, and install the speed cameras, as well as issue tickets. The province says the intention is to change drivers' behavior and improve road safety.
We're trying to make people slow down because people are dying on our roadways because people are driving too fast. And so we're not trying to trick anyone. There will be clear signage. We really need to change the culture of driving in our province. We're hoping speed cameras is one way of doing that. And like I said, so we're hoping to have 10, but hopefully by the end of the summer or early fall. And those locations may change. But there will be clear signage that there is a speed camera here. We're not trying to trick people, and we need people to slow down and not drive so fast.
Well, how's this for going the distance? A 24-hour marathon was underway in Paradise over the weekend, and 150 people took part. Peter Thompson was crowned the winner of the Paradise Backyard Ultra after running an impressive 31 laps.
This race just basically, it's last person standing. The way the ultra works is every runner has 1 hour to complete one lap, which is 4.1667 miles or 6.7 kilometers. The ultra was held up here in Paradise Park because it's a great facility, but we had 150 people sign up, hoping that this event will go about 24 hours. Well, at the 24-hour mark, we still had 4 runners running, and it went into 31 hours.
I don't think too many people slept while they were racing. Maybe some cat naps for those 24-hour plus people, but they mostly came in with a plan to hydrate, get some nutrition, and fix any other equipment that they need to do. There were so many amazing support crews that knew just what people needed and just worked together, like a NASCAR pit crew, basically.
Running just became easy. Like, for me, I get excited when the bell rings to go to the line and run another lap. Mm-hmm. And mentally, during my training, you're doing that by yourself.
Right.
But when you have a group and the community feel that we had here this weekend, cheering us all on, That just got easier. Like, I couldn't wait to get back out there. I can't do this without a team. We had a plan, and they're there to sort of do all the little things, and then I just run the laps. Their whole purpose is to take care of me when I'm in the tent. So nutrition, comfort, and rest. Those are the three things I key on. And then just let me concentrate on lap after lap. I had some goals in mind. Last year in the backyard in Nova Scotia that I did 21 laps. That was my first goal, to sort of get to 22 laps. After that, 24 is a 100 miler, so that was certainly a goal. For me, after I got to the 100 miler, it was to sort of stretch my legs a little bit, do a couple quicker laps, and then just rely on my training. I have a whole lot of things to do now. I mean, I have to mow the lawn, I have to take down the Christmas ornaments. I got so much stuff to do that there'll be no real long runs in the future, but I'll take a couple of weeks to sort of process what we accomplished here as a team, and then I'll be back.
That is certainly impressive. Great running weather this weekend. Coming up this week, if you want to reach the 20-degree mark for some places, it looks like it's going to happen. I'll tell you all about it coming up.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. The absolute final deadline is midnight Friday, June 7th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Hello, Ash. The sun was nice today, but boy, those temperatures really on the cool side.
Yep, those onshore winds across the province, or at least parts of the province, meant some of us were still sitting in single digits, while other parts of the province saw an absolutely gorgeous day today. And take a look at these temperatures, anywhere from 17 to 22 degrees for Labrador. And then we've got temperatures through central parts of the west coast into the teens as well. Along the northeast coast, Twillingate, Bonavista, St. John's, all seeing temperatures just topping out between 6 and 8 degrees this afternoon. And even along the south coast of the island, those temperatures around 9 degrees for Port aux Basques. So I put the wind barbs on here because you can really see that southerly flow anywhere where the winds are blowing offshore. The temperatures are beautiful. So now we're down to 5 degrees in St. John's and down to 9 in Burgeo at the moment. But taking a look at what's going on with satellite radar, we are generally sitting under a ridge of high pressure this afternoon. That's why most of us are experiencing all of this blue sky. But we do have some clouds moving in for Lab West as our next weather maker starts to move in. But one cool thing I saw on the satellite earlier today was just this little mesoscale area of low pressure. And you can really see it visibly on the radar there passing, or the satellite rather, passing through the Cabot Strait. Not really doing much, just bringing some cloud cover to parts of the southwest coast, but I just thought it was a really cool thing to point out on the satellite this afternoon. But our next weather maker, like I said, is over Ontario right now, actually bringing some severe thunderstorms to parts of Ontario as well as some tornado warnings. But it will likely bring some thunderstorms to parts of the maritime provinces over through tomorrow, but this will mainly be a rain event up across, well, really most of the island, but most of the province rather, but already prompting a wreck house wind warning. This is for tomorrow afternoon. And really most of the west coast is going to start to see those winds ramp up as we head into tomorrow afternoon. The strongest winds should be in the evening and through the overnight for the wreck house area, where you could see those gusts upwards of about 100 kilometers per hour. Really anywhere in southerly flow or southerly winds for the west coast, you're looking at those gusts potentially 60, even 70 kilometers per hour as we head through Tuesday night. And into Wednesday, things are going to get a bit gusty across the province, or at least across the island anyway, in southeastern portions of Labrador. Really some of the strongest winds that we've seen in a while, but we could be seeing those gusts upwards of about 70 kilometers per hour. For the time being tonight, it is going to be quiet thanks to that ridge of high pressure. Just clouds on the increase up across Labrador. Also some rain will move in for you as we head towards the early morning hours. Temperatures are going to drop tonight fairly. It's going to be a fairly chilly night, 1 to 3 degrees. Labrador, you're going to stay relatively mild, 6 to 8 degrees as your overnight lows. And again, those southerly winds sticking around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Into the afternoon tomorrow, those showers will work their way across the big land. Beautiful start to the day across the island. We will see those clouds on the increase, though, for the west coast. That will be followed very closely by some rain, and that will happen in the evening tomorrow, heading towards central through the overnight and eastern Newfoundland by the time we get into Wednesday morning. I do think it'll take a little while longer to see that across the Avalon, likely not until Wednesday afternoon, early evening, but we're certainly looking at that. In behind there, quite a bit of cold air. That's going to bring the chance of some snow back for Lab West as well as northern Labrador as we head through your Wednesday. As far as rainfall totals are concerned, we're talking about 10 to about 20 millimeters of rain. Some areas could see higher than that, 20 to 30 with those pockets of heavier showers, and up across Labrador as well. But overall, tomorrow's going to be lovely. We're looking at daytime highs 15 to 19 degrees through the day. A little cooler, though, in onshore flow along the south coast. And again, those breezy winds for those of you on the west coast. And then as far as Labrador is looking, much cooler in Nain tomorrow, 8 degrees. Otherwise, temperatures in the teens. Now, like I said, that's going to hang around the warm temperatures. We could even approach the 20-degree mark for the metro area in the long range. That's exciting. I'll talk about that coming up.
It is exciting. Thanks, Ashley. Well, as we heard earlier, we now know the total amount Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services spent on travel nurses last year. An access to information request filed by CBC shows that in 2023, a total of $91 million was paid out to private agency nurses. Today, we spoke with Nurses Union President Yvette Coffey about how nurses are reacting.
The biggest reaction that we get when we talk about the public money that's being spent on private agencies is, why aren't we spending this on retention? We could use that money to go a long way towards retaining the registered nurses and nurse practitioners that we have in the current healthcare, the publicly funded healthcare. At the end of the day, we do not want anybody having to pay for healthcare. We talk about addressing the workplace issues, the violence, the increased injury rates. We're facing the highest rates of violence in the health sector. And that's not just with registered nurses and nurse practitioners, that's with paramedicine, that's with home care workers, licensed practical nurses, PCAs, and I could go on and on. And we've been in discussions about that now for over a year. Past 2 meetings that we had scheduled got cancelled by NL Health Services. It's time for an independent body to be looking at the violence and the injuries in the healthcare system. We still have people doing overtime, not getting leave approved. And yes, I know people say, well, don't you need the agency nurses? Well, no. We've been coming with more solutions to government. Every time we talk to the Premier and we talk to the Minister of Health, we actually bring solutions. And one of them is a much cheaper option, which is what we negotiated last year when we negotiated a travel locum for Labrador. So nurses on the island could sign up for a 2-week stint to go up to Labrador, to these rural remote places, for an extra $25 an hour. Far cry from what's being advertised today for cardiac ICU or the cardiac surgery program, $130 an hour to the nurse. That doesn't tell us what the company is getting.
If government is spending all this money on travel nurses, there's obviously a very big demand for all of these nurses. So would that solution that you're proposing be enough to cover off the entire province?
I think it would be enough for the remote and rural parts of the province. When you look at the numbers for the money that was spent, Lab Grenfell was the lowest amount with $4 million. So that tells me that our travel locum is working and that it is more cost effective. And government needs to be looking at what's most cost effective. Retention wise, there's all kinds of things we can be doing. The different schedules that nurses can be doing. We're working on childcare. We got 2,200 plus new childcare spaces that are going to be happening here in the province. I just had a meeting on that this morning. I mean, we're working with government and we're bringing forth solutions, and that was one of them. Our members, registered nurses and nurse practitioners, who are giving it all every single day, and then to know they're going to nickel and dime them but pay private agencies $91 million. It's very disrespectful. They feel very undervalued, and that money, the infusion of money into these private agencies, has to stop.
It is only the Labrador Inuit and the Labrador Innu Nation that are the only true Indigenous groups within Newfoundland and Labrador.
It is a controversial conversation determining who is and is not Indigenous. Nunatsiavut is in favor of MUN implementing stricter guidelines. I'll speak with President Johannes Lamp just ahead. Well, Nunatsiavut has a serious problem with false Indigenous claims. That's according to Memorial University. The university uses the honor system when it comes to self-declaration. But as we reported last week, a new independent report suggests stricter guidelines, like verifying whether a person belongs to a federally recognized Indigenous group. It's a move Nunatsiavut President Johannes Lamp supports, and he joins me now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Karen.
So can you tell me about your support for better Indigenous verification at Memorial University?
Well, most certainly, Ontario government supports the Memorial University's independent Indigenous verification report, and most certainly it puts out the concerns that Ontario government have been having for some time, and most certainly we're the first people's group have done this work, and more certainly helping the true Labrador Inuit and true Labrador Innu Nation. And what we have been saying for some time now, since we have been working very hard to say that it is only the Labrador Inuit and the Labrador Innu Nation that are the only true Indigenous groups within Newfoundland and Labrador.
And as I mentioned off the top there, MUN uses the honor system when it comes to Indigenous identity. What has your concern been with that? What kind of problems has that caused?
Well, most certainly I can refer to the Nunavut Community Council, the NCC, claiming to be Inuit and working very hard to be recognized as having status to get a land claim agreement. And so Labrador Inuit have been working very hard and will continue to work hard that these are false claims and that Nunavut government will not put up with that.
And you mentioned Nunatsiavut, of course, that group disagrees with this report. Todd Russell has been on calling the suggestions in the report biased, useless, and prejudiced towards Nunatsiavut. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, most certainly, as complete Inuk and complete Labrador Inuk myself, I do not agree with what Todd Russell is saying, and more certainly it is the opposite of what Todd Russell is saying, because Labrador Inuit, the true Indigenous group within Newfoundland and Labrador, have been living with prejudice, racism, and more certainly, the suffering that Labrador Inuit have been put through over the years, and more certainly by colonialism, and we have been suffering with that for hundreds of years, and more certainly to hear a non-Indigenous group to say such a thing, it's not true.
Okay, Johannes Lamp, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Karen.
Welcome back to Here and Now. I just want to clarify something I said in my introduction to our interview with Nunatsiavut President Johannes Lamp just before the break there. In a press release on Friday, Nunatsiavut said Memorial University has a serious problem with false Indigenous claims, and that's why it supports the recommendation to bring in stronger policies around indigeneity. Okay, so let's head to Mi'kmaq First Nation now. Even at 84 years old, Priscilla Drew is doing what she can to keep the Mi'kmaq language alive. She taught the language in school for years, and now she hosts a weekly meetup where people can learn new words, drink tea, and play scat.
Neen Delawisi, Priscilla Drew. Neen Wiggy, Mi'kmaq. My name is Priscilla Drew, and I live in Conn River. And we gather here today just to say, you know, that's our gathering. Every Wednesday we have tea time. It's called Downhill Maui Dam Badamadimp Community Center Tea Time. That's the name of our slogan. And we come here and we have a lunch. Then we do over a few words in Mi'kmaq. Willie Buggy Wimp as Happy Easter. And Geek Bisak, rain, because there's usually a lot of rain in April. You know, it's disappearance. We want to hold on to the Mi'kmaq language because it's our culture, and we don't want the language to disappear. Hapjis Kamuj means a duck, because the ducks are all like that. Hapjis Kamuj means yellow duck. That's for April month. I'm 84, and when I was there was no teaching the Mi'kmaq. The Mi'kmaq went before that. We didn't use it very much. It wasn't in school or nothing. But for this year, this was interesting, because some people, they don't know anything, not even one word, but they like to learn it. That's why the Hoya got from someone, you know. It's not something enforced, and it's not like a classroom curriculum, but I did before about that with little children. This is something we could have fun at. Somebody want to use a word like Easter time, well, they can use the greetings because they want to use it with their family, learn to be up to themselves, they can. And the Hennifer we play scat, so that's our tea time. The lessons from 2 to 4.
Well, if you're a parent or if you spend any time around kids, you probably probably know Paw Patrol. The Canadian children's show has become an international hit, and one of the characters is voiced by a Newfoundlander. 10-year-old Hawthorne Fowler is originally from Bay Roberts. He's also the voice of Wild, who's part of the Cat Pack. The CBC's Jen White spoke with Hawthorne and his dad, Calvin Powell, about the gig.
Time for an emergency stop! Rare gripper claws!
He's really adventurous and he is very brave. And he's kind of like, he's not like other characters in the series, he's a side character. He's the leader of a cat pack on motorcycles. Well, one day I came home from like gymnastics, I think, and then I walked to the living room, and then there was this big poster on the wall saying, "Welcome home, Wild," and then that's how I found out. I felt really surprised when I got it, and I wasn't really used to having big auditions like big roles like this. I usually just did in commercials, but now I got to be in a TV show. I loved the series when I was like 4, and I watched it all the time. And yeah, I never thought I'd actually just be on the show, so it's a great opportunity.
So the episode aired at the end of April of 2024, and I believe his audition, his first taping for audition would have been February of 2023, and the callbacks happened a few weeks later, and then once you get the part, it's they make some final edits to the script, and then you're taping usually within the month. So I think he taped it in March of 2023, and it actually aired April 2024, because after they get the voice down, then all the animation has to happen around the dialogue, right? It was really cool because, you know, it's they put all the production on it, and so you know, it sounds even different than he would have done it in studio. It sounds super professional, and it sounds, you know, like a Paw Patrol voice. And it's like, well, that's my kid. He's doing animation. It's really, really cool.
Speed of a cheetah!
I watched the whole episode, and when I was listening to my voice, it was just amazing. It was really cool.
Hawthorne, before we say goodbye, I know Wild has a couple of catchphrases. Can you give us a few catchphrases?
Okay, there's this first one. Okay. Rare! Ripper claws! It's clawsome!
Hundreds of charges have been laid and tens of millions of dollars worth of stolen cars recovered by police in Ontario.
Since October of 2023, we have been investigating hundreds of stolen autos that have been destined for foreign markets. This is a highly orchestrated criminal operation where several individuals were responsible for stealing the vehicles through various methods, many of which we have come to know that include violent carjackings, as well as other methods of stealing vehicles for the intention of shipping overseas.
Well, police in Peel region, known as the auto theft capital of Canada, led the investigation, which resulted in 16 arrests. 10 suspects are still wanted. More than 300 charges have been laid overall. 369 vehicles valued at more than $33 million have been recovered. The suspects were reportedly working with organized crime to ship stolen vehicles through Montreal to the United Arab Emirates and Oman. Well, the University of Toronto took legal action today against pro-Palestinian protesters. The school is seeking an injunction to clear demonstrators from its downtown campus.
U of T went to court and sought an injunction to essentially compel the court to call the police because they don't want to do that, right? They understand that it is optically horrible and horrific for them to call their police on their own students.
It does take some time to follow due process so that whatever conclusions are reached and whatever sanctions are recommended have indeed proper purchase.
Well, that's the U of T president answering a question about whether the university will take action against some demonstrators. The university issued a trespass notice Friday, ordering protesters to leave by this morning, but the encampment remains. Meanwhile, in Montreal, a judge has made a decision about a protest in Montreal. The judge ordered protesters to clear a 2-meter space alongside the building where they're set up. They've also been ordered to remove any material blocking doors, windows, and security cameras.
Bonus.
All right, lots of wonderful temperatures happening in other parts of the province, but you mentioned earlier that you are expecting it to warm up a little bit in the east.
Yeah, I do think we're going to hit our first 20-degree temperature this week, it looks like, in the metro area. So that is very exciting.
It is very exciting.
The temperatures have definitely been pretty chilly out there today, no different. But let's take a look at what's going to happen over the next couple of days. Now, the only thing is that it is going to be a bit rainy over the next couple of days, but that's what happens when we see southerly flow, the warmer temperatures rather. So we're going to see that through the day. Wednesday should start dry for the Avalon, but I do think that rain will move in later in the afternoon, early evening. And then we've got some colder air at play up across Labrador, Lab West, and the north coast of Labrador. We'll likely see some wet snow through the overnight Wednesday and sticking around through a bit of Thursday as well. Temperatures for you will only sit in the single digits. Teens still, though, for the rest of the Big Land and across the island as well. So dropping a little bit, but overall temperatures will sit between 11 and about 18 degrees through the afternoon on Wednesday. Then this system will stick around. Again, we may even see some wet flurries through in and around Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and really all along the north coast. Southeastern Labrador, you're going to still see some showers. Most of the afternoon should be fairly dry, though, across the island. Maybe for the sticking around from the northern peninsula, central may see a few more showers lingering in the way of pop-up showers through the afternoon on Thursday. But we should see some sunshine. This is when those temperatures should reach the 20-degree mark. Right now, I have 21 in St. John's, 22 in Gander, 21 in Grand Falls, Windsor. A little cooler, though, for the west coast and south coast. Still in the teens, though. Still lovely. And single digits up across Labrador. So you're starting to get into some of that colder air. But like I said, overnight is the best chance of seeing some flurries for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Cartwright, you'll hover around 8 degrees and then staying again 2 to 3 degrees for Lab West and the north coast. Now here's your long range forecast. Now it looks like we're going to see some rain on Friday for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland. And temperatures will drop a little bit, but still in the teens, 13 to 14 degrees as we head through to the weekend. Overnight lows sitting in the single digits. For Central, a little bit more unsettled. Some few showers on Thursday. Friday likely will move in later in the day, so most of the afternoon will be fairly nice. Temperature around 16 degrees. Rain the story on Saturday with a temperature around 10. Western Newfoundland, you're looking at clearing again on Thursday. Friday, rain moving in and clearing again on Saturday. So overall, not too bad, but your temperatures will be in the teens. And then for Eastern Labrador, the chance of some flurries Thursday, Friday, but clearing out nicely on Saturday with temperatures jumping back up into the teens. And for Western Labrador, you'll see that jump a little earlier on Friday and even warmer on Saturday. But you are going to see, maybe a few flurries to start the day on Friday, but it should clear out nicely and showers moving back in on Saturday. This was today in Port Blanford. Nice little rainbow there. Thank you.
Beautiful.
It's lovely. Yes, thank you to Andrea for that great shot. If you have any weather photos that you'd like to share with us, you can do that by sending them to my Facebook page or emailing them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much for that, Andrea. And what a roller coaster for Western Labrador coming up.
Snow, warm temperatures.
Yeah.
Snow, I mean, they just went through that, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful today, but yeah, dropping back down.
Yep, that's it. All right,
Spring.
well, that's right. You never know what's going to come our way, right?
That's for sure.
I'm looking forward to those warmer temperatures, though, later in this week.
It's going to be very lovely, and it'll feel lovely for sure.
All right, well, that's it for us on this Monday evening. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.